Welcome back to Gotcha Garage. In the last video, we ported the turbos to size and made the downpipes for the turbo kit. This video, we tackle the wastegates and get some tips from a pro. Okay, so I am back in the work clothes again out here working on the Nova, and we still got to get these wastegates plumbed up. We still got to get them in position, and I'm not going to be running them back into the main tubes. I'm going to do something a little bit different with them. I think it's going to be kind of cool. What we're gonna do is on the hood, cow hood, we're gonna have them coming out like little nostrils right here. So I've already kind of marked up about where I'm gonna be putting it. Let's see, put a mark on, yeah, right about here. So they'll be coming out right around here, coming out of the hood. And just so I could kind of keep track of where everything is when the hood's not on there, because if the hood was on there, it'd be kind of impossible to be working all up in here. Got me a little aluminum tube, made a mark where it was on the fender. I can do that because I don't give a crap about my paint. If you do give a crap about your paint, put you some tape and then put a mark there. But gonna go ahead and keep this in line with this mark. And it kind of ended up being in line with these little holes right there, just to keep an eye on things. And then I made a mark on where the cow hood starts and where it meets its highest point. And I started figuring out exactly what I'm gonna do. So, wastegate. And this thing is gonna kind of cock upwards. See if I can get you guys a better view. It's gonna kind of cock upwards and around. All right, and then the tube will be coming out of this end and it'll come around and come up. But to get it to do that, one, I gotta make sure that there's enough space under the hood. It might be a cow hood, but like I said, I got a mark right here where the cow hood elevation starts and where it ends up being at its highest point. And I measured from here up, which is not exactly into the cow all the way, but I've got about 2 inches at least, and this is only going to be about 1.5 inches above it. It's also on an upward slope, so I should be fine because this is at an angle. The other one's going to be doing pretty much the same thing, but because of the way the turbo's clocked, it's going to have to turn up just a little bit more, and it'll also be coming out right here. But what I'm going to do now is I've got myself some tubing, got a little J bend, a little 180, so it makes 2 90s. And a good amount of straight tubing. We're gonna cut this right down the middle and start kind of mocking up where it's gonna go. I'm gonna cut it right down the middle because after looking at the mock-up of where the wastegates are gonna go, neither one of these angles are more than 90 degrees. So I've got these wastegates kind of mocked up and I'm just holding it in place right now. But you can kind of see both of them are mocked up, and looks like I'm going to be able to have both my exits come out and then come straight up right about where my thumb is. It's kind of hard to hold this one in place at the same time, but I'll set this down. Looks like this is going to be wastegate come in, and then when it comes out, it's going to do a 90 and come straight up out of the hood. Now I just need to clean up the edges on these pipes, clean the little burrs and stuff off on the inside and the outside. That way I've got a good contact to weld with. I'll put a little bit of a bevel on it, a little bit of an angle with the bench grinder, and then I'll tack these things in place. And just like with when I was making the hot side piping for the exhaust coming out of the turbo, what I'll do to remember where I'm clocking this is I'll just take my Sharpie and put a little line on the pipe and wherever I'm welding it to. That way I can just line those two up and then tack it in place, and I know that it's going to be right. Okay, so we've got the wastegates plumbed to the actual headers. They're gonna have exhaust coming in them. Now we gotta get the exhaust out. So I'm gonna show you guys what I'm trying to do, because I want them coming out of the hood. I want it coming straight out of the hood, both of the wastegates. Halfly because I don't want to run pipe all the way back there and put a flex, like a flex piece in there, and also because it's gonna look super freaking cool. So what I did was I got myself this piece of tubing and centered it up on the actual hood first, because that's where the actual exits are coming out. Since the exits are coming out of there, I centered it up on the hood, and I made marks where the cowl started, and this was actually perfect. Like, it was almost just as wide as the hood, and it was about 48 or 50 inches, I believe it was. But this is where the cowl starts, where it starts to ramp up. This is the peak of it. So that's where it's actually at the corner, at the like apex, basically right here. It starts and it kind of goes up a little bit. After I got that reference and looked at it and I got these mounted, I tried to get the angle where the actual exit is coming out to be roughly the same, or as close as I could get it. Now what I did was I said, okay, since this one has the most angle pointing backwards, then it's gonna move backwards on the hood at the quickest rate. So the more tubing that I put on it going this way, the quicker it's going to move backwards on the hood. And we want both of the exits to come out even, side by side. So what that meant was I was going to put a shorter pipe coming out and then just a direct 90. Now I went ahead and I cut that 180 piece that I had in half so that I have two 90s. And basically this is what you got. Okay, when I have the wastegate in the proper position, as long as that's perfectly level, and make that level, and then this can kind of twist and you make this level, but it'll be coming straight up out of the hood like so. That means I knew where the tube was going to be starting basically and ending, because it's an inch and I think it's 3/4, so 1 3/4 tubing. I've got 2-inch actual like hood grommets that ironically arrived at the house today. But if you've been following the channel, you know that my good friend Smitty lets me work on my car, but it's at his shop, and he lets me use all his badass tools, and he's really the reason I'm able to get this done. But it's an hour and a half away from my house, so I drive an hour and a half every time to come out here and work on the car. If I forget something or something shows up 20-30 minutes after I left the house, then I just have to wait till the next day. So the hood things are not with me today, the little things that go in there, but I'm gonna go ahead and probably drill the holes and everything and make space for it, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but basically I'm gonna have this coming straight out, and I made it the shortest right here on this tube. Like, I didn't want it coming really long out here, because the longer it is, since it's at, like I said again, since it's at more of an angle pointing towards the back of the car, it's gonna move farther back in the hood. So I made this one as short as possible. That way I can make this one as long as I really needed to get it to about the same position. I want this to come out side by side. After I got finished tacking the wastegate out pipes in place where I wanted them, I threw the hood on the car for some last minute motivation before I headed home for the night. The next morning, I woke up and headed up to meet my buddy Mark. I really appreciate friends like Mark. They're hard to come by nowadays. He's been a professional welder for years, and once I got up there, it didn't take us long to get to work. It was also a really cool experience to be able to learn from someone with so much experience, so I wanted to share it with you all.
Go ahead and take them up completely to where try and keep as much gas from escaping as possible. And that's just, we're gonna purge it with argon.
Okay. And so you're essentially like filling the inside of it with argon.
Right.
And then on the outside, the gun is also putting argon on the outside.
That's right.
Keeping the weld.
So you get the shielding effect on the inside and on the outside at the same time.
Okay.
And that'll keep That'll keep the weld from intruding onto the inside, and you
Yeah.
won't have that that black, what they call it sugar, that black stuff on the inside.
So whenever I'm welding on the outside of things normally, I've always kind of looked at it like what I'm seeing on the outside is I'm seeing a puddle of metal, whether it's, you know, a MIG welder or a TIG welder. On the outside, you see a puddle of metal. And so your mind tells you, okay, if there's a shield around this outside, then it should be fine. But what you're saying is it's penetration all the way through the metal if you're doing a good weld. And so you need protection on the backside too.
That's right.
Okay, that makes sense.
You can do it without doing this, and it's just gonna leave
That sugaring
the
effect.
sugaring effect on the inside. So what we'll do is we'll just tape up all these flanges. We'll run a hose into one side with no outlet, and then go to town. Start welding on it.
Word. So say that again.
Whenever you're cleaning up stainless steel, like after we weld, and if you want to leave the color on there, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
The purples and the blues and the oranges and stuff, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to get rid of that color, you always want to use a stainless steel wheel, and it's the only thing it can be used for. You can't use this on carbon steel.
Can't use it on carbon steel.
Right. So if I took this and I tried to clean this table off with it, it would impregnate this stainless with carbon. So the next time I went and did something onto a stainless piece,
Now that's
now
just
that
like a
piece-
regular one.
Yeah, now that piece is going to pick up some of that carbon and it'll eventually rust.
Huh. So anytime you're cleaning up stainless steel, you've got to use a blue one.
You got to use a stainless steel wire wheel that has been used on nothing but stainless.
Got it.
Make sense?
That's definitely, it makes sense, and it's definitely really important.
Yes. So if we took just a plain old steel wire wheel and tried to clean these parts up with it, eventually those parts would rust.
Now, and does that apply to using it like stainless steel on a grinder as well, like a bench grinder if you're using that?
Okay. Yes, exactly. So, like if we go to clean some of these parts up, we'll use a sanding pad, and that sanding pad will be strictly for stainless steel. We won't use it on any other steel parts.
So even a sanding pad, even like a sanding pad, if you
pad-
touch any other kind of steel and you touch the stainless steel,
That's right.
it's going to cross-contaminate essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
So stainless is a non-ferrous metal,
Okay.
meaning non-magnetic, right?
All right.
Magnet won't stick to true stainless.
Okay.
All right.
That's good to know because,
Won't stick to true stainless.
yeah. So it wasn't true stainless when I
That's
got
not true stainless. That's steel.
Gotcha. Okay.
See?
Yeah.
See, it won't stick to this, which is true polished stainless.
It's almost like aluminum. Like it's just not magnetic at all. That's what non-ferrous means.
Non-ferrous means non-magnetic, essentially.
Gotcha.
That's going to be your stainless, your aluminum. Now, some cheap grades of stainless steel have enough carbon in them to where they're slightly magnetic.
Okay.
It'll kind of grab it, but it won't hang on. Kind of like this flange right here. This flange is stainless.
But it's got like a little bit in there.
Just a little bit on it, but that, you see how
It's a lot more.
it's grabbing that?
Yeah, it just like.
It just hangs on to it. That'll let you know the difference between stainless and stainless and carbon. On this side, you can see where I dabbled into my my puddle a little bit here and there, and it's kind of dulled that end. Come back and go with a sharp, real super pointy end, and I can fine tune that puddle, and the weld will come out a lot better.
Okay.
On the inside, it started adding a little bit of that mess in there, but on this side, there's not hardly anything. It's pretty smooth.
I'd say that looks pretty dang good. That one right there, that one right there will make about 2,000 horsepower. So that's what back purging will do for you. If we didn't have that gas going on the inside, Mark, what would happen?
Oh, it was sugared on the inside, and you'd have a big raised area right here where it'd cut down on airflow, and it'd collect soot, all that good stuff, and
it become problems, probably create even more heat. This is why you back purge with straight argon whenever you're doing stainless. After getting all of the hot side pieces back to the shop and installed on the car, it looks great. New videos coming soon. If you like this one, drop a like and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching Godsey Garage.